In 4 steps, this video will cover the Renin Angiotensin Aldosterone system and blood pressure regulation by the kidneys. Number 1. Angiotensin II regulates blood pressure. Angiotensin II is a protein that is able to correct for a decrease in blood pressure. When a decrease in blood pressure occurs, it is necessary for angiotensin II to be formed in the blood. The formation of angiotensin II begins with the protein angiotensinogen. Angiotensinogen is formed by the liver continually and normally circulates in the blood regardless of blood pressure being high or low. Angiotensin II is formed when angiotensinogen is converted to angiotensin I and angiotensin I is converted to angiotensin II. Renin is the enzyme that converts angiotensinogen to angiotensin I. Angiotensin I is converted to angiotensin II by angiotensin-converting enzyme, or ACE, which is primarily located in the lungs. Thus, angiotensin II is formed by the conversion of angiotensinogen to angiotensin I by renin, and angiotensin I being converted to angiotensin II by ACE. Considering angiotensinogen is normally present in the blood, the first step in the response of the kidneys to a decrease in blood pressure is not the formation of angiotensinogen. It is the release of the enzyme renin. Thus, the system the kidneys rely upon to correct for a drop in blood pressure is named after renin, the enzyme that is released into the blood by the kidneys when blood pressure falls. This is because, while angiotensinogen is normally present in the blood, angiotensin II would not have formed had it not been for the kidneys releasing renin into the blood. Before understanding how angiotensin II affects blood pressure and the steps that cause renin release, it is important to understand how blood pressure can be regulated. Number 2. Water is one of the main components of blood. In a healthy individual, blood is normally composed of 45% red blood cells, also known as erythrocytes. The portion of the blood that is erythrocytes is known as the hematocrit. Less than 1% of blood is made up of white blood cells, which is also known as the buffy coat. The fluid portion of the blood is known as the plasma and makes up approximately 55% of the blood. Plasma consists of ions, nutrients, waste products, hormones, and anything else in the blood that is not a cell, all being circulated in water. Therefore, in normal circumstances, over 50% of blood is made up of water. In order to understand how the kidneys regulate blood pressure, it is important to understand what aspects of blood pressure and what components of the blood the kidneys are able to act on. Let us review the factors that affect blood pressure. Mean arterial pressure, or blood pressure, can be affected by the variables in the following formula. Blood pressure, or mean arterial pressure, equals heart rate times stroke volume times total peripheral resistance. Blood pressure is determined by the flow rate, meaning how quickly the blood is flowing through the body, or how much blood flows per minute. Blood pressure is also determined by the volume of blood, meaning how much blood is in the body. And lastly, blood pressure can be regulated by resistance to blood flow. This formula for blood pressure is discussed in greater detail in the video on this channel on mean arterial pressure. The kidneys regulate blood pressure by affecting the volume of blood and by affecting the resistance to blood flow. The one way in which the kidneys do not regulate blood pressure is through the flow rate. The kidneys do not increase or decrease the heart rate to increase or decrease the rate at which blood flows per minute through the body. Thus, the renin-angiotensin aldosterone system regulates blood pressure by regulating the volume of blood in the body and by regulating the resistance to blood flow. Number 3. The kidneys can reabsorb water and ions into the blood. The kidneys filter blood at what is known as the glomerulus. The glomerulus is a capillary network that is contained in the nephrons of the kidneys. Each kidney has hundreds of thousands of nephrons. The blood is supplied to the glomerulus by the afferent arteriole. Blood leaves the glomerulus at the efferent arteriole. It is as blood is flowing through the glomerulus that much of the plasma is filtered out of the blood and into the kidneys. This filtration is caused by the blood pressure in the glomerulus as blood flows through the glomerulus. The plasma that has left the blood during filtration now circulates through the nephron from the proximal convoluted tubule to the loop of Henle, to the distal convoluted tubule, and lastly, the medullary collecting duct. It is at the medullary collecting duct that the renin angiotensin aldosterone system is able to work to increase blood pressure. This is because as the filtrate passes through the nephron, much of it is being reabsorbed. When the filtrate reaches the medullary collecting duct, it is the last chance for the filtrate to be reabsorbed before leaving the kidneys for the urinary bladder. The renin angiotensin aldosterone system increases the amount of filtrate that is reabsorbed at the medullary collecting duct, leading to an increase in water and ion reabsorption into the blood. To understand how the renin angiotensin aldosterone system plays a role in the reabsorption of filtrate at the medullary collecting duct, it is important to review what stimulates production of angiotensin II and the effects angiotensin II has on the body. Number 4. Angiotensin II initiates 4 main mechanisms that can increase blood pressure. Renin is released into the blood by the kidneys when the kidneys detect a decrease in blood pressure. The macula densa is a portion of the nephron that is able to detect levels of sodium and chloride ions in the blood. When sodium or chloride ions decrease, this is detected by the macula densa as a decrease in plasma volume and a decrease in blood pressure. As a result, renin is released by the kidneys into the blood, leading to the eventual formation of angiotensin II. Angiotensin II acts to increase blood pressure 4 different ways. Number 1. Angiotensin II stimulates the posterior pituitary gland to release antidiuretic hormone, or ADH. ADH acts on the cells of the medullary collecting duct to increase the amount of aquaporins on their cell membranes. Aquaporins are channels for water to flow into the cell. The water can diffuse from the filtrate through the cells of the medullary collecting duct and into the blood, thus increasing the amount of water reabsorbed, which increases plasma volume and increases blood pressure. Number 2. Angiotensin II stimulates the release of aldosterone from the adrenal glands. Aldosterone acts on the cells of the medullary collecting duct to open sodium ion channels that are closed, and to increase production of sodium channels in the cells of the medullary collecting duct, including sodium-potassium pumps. As the sodium passes through the cells of the medullary collecting duct, it is eventually reabsorbed into the plasma. This results in an increase in reabsorption of water from the filtrate into the blood, further increasing plasma volume. Number 3. Angiotensin II stimulates thirst to increase fluid intake, which will increase blood volume, increasing blood pressure. Number 4. Angiotensin II acts as a vasoconstrictor, reducing the radius of blood vessels, which increases resistance to blood flow, which increases blood pressure. These 4 steps are how angiotensin II is able to act to increase blood pressure. 3 out of the 4 mechanisms involve increasing plasma volume as a means of increasing blood pressure. One of the mechanisms involves increasing resistance to blood flow, which increases blood pressure. Thus, if we remember the formula for blood pressure, the kidneys are able to increase blood pressure through increases in stroke volume from increasing plasma volume, and the kidneys are able to increase blood pressure by increasing total peripheral resistance through vasoconstriction. The renin angiotensin aldosterone system is the tool the kidneys use to cause these increases in blood pressure. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe to our channel.